afternoon, everyone, and welcome to one of RVN's still on the newer side shows, What the Why with Barbara Ann. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe at some point in your life you felt stuck and you wanted to get unstuck, or maybe you were sick and tired of feeling sick and tired in your career or your business or your company or your life. Well, one thing all of our guests have in common with you is that at some point along the line, they felt similarly and they decided to do something about it, and today's guest is no exception. I'm super excited to have Marty Pack, founder and executive director and creative producer of Whale of a Tale Productions. Based in Ohio, so she is joining me via Zoom, Marty is an intellectual creative with a vision. Through academic and investigative research, she brings a level of compassion to tell an honest story. Her desire to educate fuels her drive to teach the underlying causes of marginalization and disinvestment. Marty's production of The Takeover of Testing was first to authentically show the marginalization of Black, Indigenous people of color, also now known as BIPOC, communities, using the eugenics policies of the testing movement. She was also one of, if not the first, to educate the community about the school to prison pipeline through this film. True to the documentary's investigation, we can see the devastation wrought by the destructive policies that were in place. And sadly, this film remains highly relevant more than 10 years later. Marty's second film, Maria's Story, Undocumented Violence, looked at an undocumented woman surviving an abusive marriage, gaining legal status, and achieving the American dream. It was used to educate social work students and the public at Governor State University, and the film is now used by the Archdiocese of Chicago's Domestic Violence Outreach Program to inspire the undocumented community to get help. Marty's background includes relationship building, production, teaching, and research. While raising 2 children on her own, she worked full-time and graduated summa cum laude with a self-directed bachelor's degree in communication and production. She then went on to earn a master's degree in political science, which is my undergrad, from Northeastern Illinois University, where she has done groundbreaking research on domestic violence through the lens of Catholicism. Marty has also studied public health and public affairs at the University of Colorado, though her most loved education was improv at the Second City in Chicago. Other roles Marty's held include teaching political science for Columbus State Community College, and she's also taught in the K-12 school system, and serving as a COVID investigator for the Grand County, Ohio Public Health through the COVID pandemic. As I already said, I'm super excited to have Marty join us by Zoom. So without further ado, please welcome Marty Pack to our show. So yay! So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Barbara Ann. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad you're able to join us. Oh, me too. I'm so as you know, and as those who've seen the show before know, we always ask, after reading all of these amazing things that our guests have managed to accomplish, I don't know whether or not you actually wanted to be a film producer when you were little. So please share with us, what was it that little Marty wanted to do when she was growing up?
That is a great question. I wanted to be lots of different things. Growing up in a Catholic family, at one point I wanted to be a nun, if you can believe that, and a pilot, and an actress. And I think that all of those things that I tried and wanted to do really kind of put me on that crooked path to where I am now.
Wow.
It has been a crooked road.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, oftentimes those are the best journeys, right?
Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely. It was a great
coincidentally, two of those three things I wanted to be when I was little. And even today, now when somebody says, well, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? I'm like, I want to fly. So yes, and definitely wanted to be an actress too. So probably one of the reasons why we connected.
Yeah,
So how did you
definitely.
get from the little person who went back and forth between being a nun, a pilot, an actress, and countless other things to founding and running your own production company?
Wow, that is that's a story. So
We've got
I'll try
time.
my
No.
best. If I get off too far, pull me back in, my ADHD brain. But I really have to say it was the birth of my two kids when I was 30 and 31, and they're 8 days short of a year apart. So I didn't sleep for a very long time. But with being a new mom and not having an education and being in these jobs that were just miserable for me, I wanted to show them, right, that they could do anything, and we can be all that we want to be, right? So I did a lot of soul searching in the first couple of years, and I decided to go back to school and get a BA. The vast majority of my undergrad was in women's studies, and I have to say that really opened my eyes. That really opened my eyes, and
Another thing we have in common.
yeah,
Not a vast majority,
really,
but I had a women's studies
it's
as a
really
concentration.
quite
Yes.
astonishing, yeah, how crazy, our society is,
Yeah.
right, when it comes to women and women and marginalization,
Yes.
and how we're supposed to be and act. And I could see that, going back through my childhood, and family relations and all that played in. And so that's really what got me started on my intellectual journey. So I got my BA, and that's when I did my first documentary looking at education policy. I came home. My child came home visibly upset about a test that they did not have to take until the following year, and I was looking for a project to do in order to finish my degree. And I started investigating and looking into and talking to experts and talking to professors and community leaders. The Chicago Teachers Union made connections there, and really delved into how these new policies were really being used to shut down public schools, open private schools, how they were being used to really take money out of the public coffers and put it into private hands.
Now, if I can interrupt for 1 second, just for context, what time frame was this? Like, was this during the Common Core time frame, or was this even before that?
This is
the
when
very beginning.
The testing policy first came into play.
Okay.
It looked at. It was before Common Core, and it really was. The administration, it was the Obama administration, and what they were doing really was using a eugenics view of school, and how do we help kids? That's what we are all about, right? We want to educate our children.
Right.
So these policies, however, weren't doing that. They wanted to take numbers, just look strictly at numbers, see who was doing good, what schools were doing good, and then if they weren't, pull their funding,
Mm-hmm.
shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was the beginning of what you see now
Yep.
with where we are at with the teacher shortage,
Uh-huh.
right?
Absolutely.
Um, uh, so these policies, the it didn't take into account any social, political, economic
Yep.
um, uh, issues
Yep.
that BIPOC communities, poor communities were dealing with. So of course, then you're going to have public schools being shut down and these kids being marginalized even further,
Yep.
which is what happened.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
and
you're absolutely right.
yeah,
I mean, the work that I do in some of the communities that I've served in over my course of my career, the damage I got to see in that context, but I also even got to see it to some extent in my own family because my son is neurodiverse. And so right off the bat, they put him in classes that he really didn't need. He went backwards. We fought with the school, and we had the means to hire an attorney. I mean, so many families did not.
yeah,
And the conversations with all my friends that were in education, everybody was being forced to teach to a test instead of actually teaching real skills that would be used and needed. And we still saw that continuation on top of that of pushing everybody on a college track, where I pretty much knew from before he ever even went to school, my son marched to his own drum. He was never going to go college track. And he was going to do something different, and he is, and he's fantastic at it. But yeah, I am totally with you. I didn't mean to interrupt per se, but it's something that
please,
I am
yeah.
also very
Yeah,
passionate about.
I agree 100%. But my kids are different too. And I think that one of the reasons that their generation has a lot of anxiety is because when they were babies,
Yes.
right? When they were so little, we put all this pressure on them to perform.
Yep.
And we fought over positions in good schools.
Yep.
It really did. I believe that is one of the reasons why we have such a big anxiety issue with the generation.
So you take on this project, this massive project, and I guess you've hinted a little bit at some of the things you have uncovered along the way, but if you could share a little bit more about what you learned during that time frame, in addition to the fact that a lot of these policies help contribute to redirecting funds that really were needed in some schools, under the premise that they would be used to help equalize, and in fact, really in many instances did the opposite.
Yeah, what was happening was that public school money was being diverted to private institutions, to charter schools, to new special schools for children. And what it did was really disenfranchise these kids. They didn't get a good education. That money was, it was purposeful in that money being taken out of public schools and into private institutions. So I think that there are a lot of really, really great people who wanted to do something great for kids.
Yeah.
And said, oh yeah, we can do this. They really didn't understand the background of where that policy came from, or they didn't understand,
consequences.
Down the line what this would look like. And it really did contribute to so much racism.
Yep.
And and just devastated Black and brown communities.
Agreed. So believe it or not, we're already due for a break. So we're going to take a quick
Oh my
break.
gosh. Okay.
I know, it goes quickly. So we're going to take break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about, how Marty's film was received, and then how she moved on to her next projects, and what she's working on now, and the importance of the work that she's doing as soon as we turn. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Marty Pack, CEO and wearer of many hats with Whale of a Tale Productions. Before the break, Marty was telling us about her first film and some of the lessons that she learned and things that were uncovered as part of that process. So I think right before the break, we were talking about what the policies, the unintended consequences of good people did to harm a lot of communities, and specifically brown and black populations and communities in areas that had experienced disinvestment. So I think you had another thought right before I interrupted you to go to break. But
Oh gosh, I should get that thought back. Yeah, but
I guess
I
go ahead.
think that there are a lot of people, very good people, who just really didn't understand that those policies would damage and in quite an impactful way. And we can see that now with, like, as an example, I was working K through 12. I intentionally took a teaching position, substitute teaching positions in 2018, and went to the very rich suburbs and very poor inner city classrooms. So in the very upper crust neighborhoods in Ohio, you would go into the classroom and open up the cupboards, and there's like any color you could ever want or imagine of construction paper, right, in this classroom. And then, the next day I'd go into downtown, Columbus, where all the poor kids went. And in one of them, they didn't even have a pencil sharpener that worked. Okay. So it breaks my heart, and it really is so frustrating that that the attention that these policies, were doing. We weren't paying attention, right? We weren't paying attention to these policies, and we tried to piecemeal, different things back in place. And so now you have shows like, what's the new show?
Abbott Elementary.
The teacher show that's on now.
Abbott Elementary, which is across the bridge in Philadelphia, which, while funny, is a very realistic look at the struggles where teachers are paying for things out of their pockets in some communities. And they're trying to find creative ways to make their kids feel like they're not experiencing the disinvestment that has really affected the communities where they're from.
It is very truthful. It's a very truthful of what has happened. And the teacher frustration, the teacher shortage, the looking at institutions as a business. It's not a business, right? This is about educating our populace to continue our democracy, right? We need smart people. We need people with all kinds of different skills, especially now with global warming and everything that we need. Our economy needs to switch, right? So we need people with these different skills, and they need to be smart, and they need to understand, and they need to think critically. So they need to have emotional intelligence.
Yes.
These need to be back in the classroom now.
Yes.
Now.
Yes. And an added level of that, something that I've been talking about a lot, even in my business, is trauma informed. They need to be that those who are working with these communities need to understand a trauma-informed approach or trauma-informed care, because we're not just talking about what's happened to individuals, we're talking about what's happened to whole groups collectively through these types of experiences and these even well-meaning policies and others that were intended to be hurtful that even preceded those. So this project has now actually morphed into more of a mission. You know, and I know we mentioned your second project on domestic violence in the undocumented community, and I really don't want to bypass it or minimize it, but you have another project that is very much connected to what you uncovered as part of your earlier work at looking at that marginalization within certain populations and communities. So if you could talk a little bit more about what you're doing now, because that's one of the ways we actually met.
I would
but
love
it's
it.
also very important, very, very important work.
Our project now, we are looking at health policy right now. We are looking at how COVID has marginalized even further, groups that never had great health care to begin with, right? So we're really delving into the aftermath of COVID and, long COVID survivors and people who have become bankrupt from having to pay for medical care. All of these things, we are going into Black and Brown communities, LGBTQ plus, immigrant workers, migrant workers, Native American, of course. We're going into all of these communities and interviewing individuals and having them tell their stories about how COVID has really affected their lives, specifically when looking at healthcare and insurance.
Yes.
Right. So what we want to do, we have a long and a short game. The short game is a 120-minute documentary looking at these different communities and getting that out to film festivals so we can start educating the public, because the public really needs to be informed about long COVID.
Yes.
And what that is going to look like, because it's going to be devastating. And I don't believe we are not prepared at all.
No, we're not.
Our public health and medical institutions are not prepared at all for this huge wave of disabled individuals that are coming towards us. And it is going to be devastating, and it is going to affect, of course, those marginalized groups the most. That's the short game, that 120-minute documentary. The long game is doing a docu-series for kids, 6th grade and up, looking at breaking up each segment into a different community and looking at education and looking at our healthcare system and the flaws and what we need and what we should be doing. And I want that to inform critical thinking skills, right? There'll be a companion lesson plan for teachers to use. And included with that lesson plan, in that lesson plan, I want to teach kids how to do research, how to do academic research. They grew up on the computer. They're great on the computer, savvy, but they don't know how to weed out all the garbage that's out there. They don't understand how that misinformation is coming at them and how to really get to good sources.
And believe it or not, we are at time. And there's, I often say I want people to come back I really want to do a part 2 of this because there's so much more we didn't get to. So depending on what your schedule looks like, we may be seeing Marty very soon again, because there's, again, so much more information about this that we really need to talk about, because of the mass effect that this is going to have. And you're looking at somebody who is the face of long COVID, and you've also met Cynthia Adnig, who works closely with Marty, and she serves on their board. So, Marty, depending on when we can get you back, where can people find you?
We are at Whale, WAIL, like in Scream, Whale of a Tale, TALE, like in fairy tale, TALE.org. And you can email me also, Marty at whaleofatale.org. We have a new website that's coming out very shortly. And I just want to give a shout out to Samanda Wilson, Steve Jones, Cynthia Adenig, John O'Malley, and Jenny Reed, who are our board and the plethora of advisory people that we have. Thank you so much, because I could not be here without you all.
Yeah, and they are, I know some of them, and they are amazing people. And yes, definitely be on the lookout, because we're going to have Marty back to talk more about all of this. And thank you for the start of this, what I really do feel will be a first half of at least a 2-part conversation on this, and how your mission, and the mission of many of us, is to change what we're seeing out there, because the pandemic shined a spotlight. We knew things were broken, but the pandemic shined a spotlight on things at a whole new level. So I can already say we're going to have Marty back really soon.
I will be back.
But in addition to Marty, as I've mentioned in past episodes, I no longer announce the next week's guest. I just kind of generically advertise who's coming up. And some of those include Julia Gandy, CEO of Embodying Wellness, Bonnie Clayton, owner of The Web Chick, the tech geek with a creative streak, Anita Grace Brown, who's an author and yoga teacher at Groovology, Tom Drucker, CEO of Consultants in Corporate Innovation and a specialist in psychological safety. And then Lisa Hillerin, author and owner of Lisa Hillerin LLC, my first ever guest on What the Why, who's coming back to update us on her recent transitions and celebrate her graduating with her master's degree before she turns 60 in November. Please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what Marty's going to come back and share with you as part of part 2, as well as what any of our other upcoming guests have to say about their journeys. Also, please check out my appearance as a guest last week on RVN's Unwinding Stress with Dr. Kevin. A few months ago, I was on Defining Moments with Her Biz and host Ellen Herbert. And then our recent repeat guest, Ian Hanley, has a new show called Taylison's Magical Tales. So you want to check those out on rvn.com and Roku. And please, as a reminder, What the Why airs live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and is also again available on demand and on Roku. So whether you're looking to make changes in your life, no matter how big or small, in your career or in your schooling, whatever pivot you want to make, please join us again for more informational and important conversations with guests like Marty, who you will be hearing from again. Guests who wanted to make changes and found a way to overcome whatever challenges or obstacles and even fears in some instances were in their path, both real and perceived, to achieve whatever they wanted to do, find their purpose, and live it.